Okay, so I'd like to begin by just reviewing what the three things we went over last time were. So as you recall, the first thing we went over was an easy version of Smoke on the Water. And that version kind of gives you the idea of the riff, but is not actually the riff being played in the song. So today I think we'll go ahead and start and go with the actual riff as it's being played on the song. And one of the advantages to playing what's actually playing on the song is that you can play with the song to hear yourself playing it correctly when you're able to sync up to it. So for this, it's using a technique called a double stop, which is a fancy way of saying playing two notes at the same time. And so the way I move my camera a bit closer so you can see my hands. So the way you can do it a few different ways. You can use a pick while doing it, and that might be a little bit more challenging. So we can just practice for now using just these two fingers. So you'll be using for this riff just the A, the D string, and the G string as well. So you're going to begin by pressing down on the 5th fret of the A and the D. And you can either use your ring finger or your pinky finger. Personally, I prefer to use my pinky finger. It just feels a bit more natural. You know what? I'll go ahead and just play the riff so you can see how it will be played and then break it down from there. So that's basically the riff. You might have noticed I had kind of pat it down a few times just to keep time. And that's a helpful little trick to keep time as you're playing. You don't have to play it that way in the original song. It's not actually being played that way. It's just, you just hear the strings. But anyway, so getting into the riff itself, I'll pull up a bit closer. So like I said, I like to use my pinky in barring it. So hold down the 2 strings right there, either with your pinky or with your ring finger. You can use both if you'd like. I personally find it easier to kind of do like this, kind of like a fist, where you have the fingers behind your pinky kind of supporting and helping you push it down. So you begin by, get both my hands in the frame, there we go. Playing both 5 on A and D at the same time. Then using your first finger on the 3rd fret of the D and the G string. So, and then from there you're going to lay down these fingers onto the 5th fret of the D and the G. So all together it's, so you see how I'm just kind of pressing my fingers. My hand isn't really going to move much during this riff. It's just basically going to be lifting fingers and a little slide. So then you're going to play that again. Or sorry, you'll play that that 5 to 3, then back to 5 again once. And then you'll begin again at the 5, go to the 3, but this time you'll slide up to the 6 and then slide down to the 5th. If you remember how we played it before, it's the same basic idea, just on different strings. So all together, it should sound like this. So again, it's 5, 5, 3, 3, 5, 5, 5, 5, 3, 3, 6, 5. Then you begin again. 5, 3, 5, 3, 5, 5. So that's Smoke on the Water. So from there, let me know if you have any questions about how to play that. If there's any parts that I ran over too quickly, perhaps, that you might want to have me re-explain, but I think you'll be able to get that down. So another thing we can go ahead and do now is work on some new chords. So as you recall, the previous chords we learned were E minor, E major, and G major. So the chords we'll learn today are going to be A minor, A major, and C major. So we'll go ahead and begin with the A minor. It's a very, very common chord. You'll see this in many, many, many songs, which is why I think it's useful to go ahead and learn it now. So it's basically the same shape as the E major we had learned previously, but on different strings. So for this chord, you're going to use the bottom 5 strings, beginning on A. And so you're going to have your middle finger and ring finger on the 2nd frets of the D and the G, and your first finger on the 1st fret of the B. Nice and close. Bottom 5 with that shape down. So open, 2nd, 2nd, 1st, open. Alrighty, so again, it's very important to have your fingers nice and curved so they're not blocking the strings beneath it, and they're just putting full pressure down. Again, recall that the place you want to have your fingers down is towards the center of the fret, right before the fret, as you can see with my first finger, or towards the center and right in front, as you see with these fingers. So A minor. Alrighty, so once you get that chord down, you can go ahead and move on to the next shape, which will be A major. And again, with kind of like with the E minor and E major that we learned last time, where they're only one note different, so the E minor. Again, it's going to be that way with A minor and A major. So A minor, A major. And so the first 3 notes are going to be the exact same. So it's open on A, 2nd on D, and 2nd on G. But this time you're going to play the 2nd on the B. Whereas before you play the first for the A minor on A major, you're going to play the 2nd on B. And you can play this a number of ways. For now, you can go ahead and pick whichever way is just easier to you. Eventually, once you incorporate this into an actual song, you basically want to go with what feels natural for the context of the song. So if you're playing a song where your fingers are in such a position that it feels more comfortable to play a different way, go ahead and adjust. But for this time, you can either play with these 3 fingers like this. Again, it's open, 2nd, 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 open. Or you can do the same shape with different fingers like this. Whatever's comfortable for you. So that's A major. Now the last chord we'll work on today is C major. This is a very, very common chord. This is probably the most common chord, in fact. Many, many songs are in C major and A minor, which includes C major in its scale. So it's a very important chord to learn. And so, again, it's going to be the bottom 5 strings, beginning on the 3rd fret of the A, the 2nd fret of the D, open G, 1st fret of the B, and then open E. So close in here. So you're going to be using your ring finger for the 3rd of A, your middle finger for the 2nd of D, and your first finger on the 1st of D. Again, just the bottom 5. Now this chord, I remember when I first started learning guitar, I had some difficulty with this chord. This might feel like a bit of a stretch, like you're stretching these fingers out. And especially since they're all kind of overlapping like that, then it might be a little bit of a challenge. But just again, make it as slow for yourself as possible till you get it right, then work on speed, right? But the important thing is just getting each note nice and clear individually. That's C major. Okay, so now we'll go ahead and move on to the 3rd and the final part of this lesson, which is completing what we began on scar tissue. So I'll just go ahead and play it, and we'll go from there. that's just the intro, the very beginning riff. But that riff tends to repeat, and that serves as the verse of the song. Whoops. But you get the idea. Anyways, so again, as we had kind of mentioned in the previous lesson, you can either use a pick to do this, or you can use individual fingers to do this. For the moment, it might be a little bit easier just to use individual fingers. Once you get the riff down, then you can go ahead and add the pick just to get the stylistic tone of hitting all the strings. Right. So once you have the notes down, then you can add the rhythm. Or you can do as I did just now, work on the rhythm first and combine them that way, whatever works for you. So again, you have the tablature that I wrote out for you the other day. You can recall that I think I mentioned that you can either use your pinky or your ring finger, whatever's comfortable for you. For me personally, it's a little bit easier to use my pinky and first finger like this. And it's also, you can make the rock and roll horns, which is nice. And so there we go. So to break that down a bit slower, let me get a little bit closer to my camera here. You're gonna keep this shape. And really the important part, since you already know the notes according to the tablature, is really getting the rhythm down. So what the right hand is doing, you're kind of it's a little bit easier to understand it in terms of sound than in words. We're basically going down, up, down, up, down, up. So once you get that rhythm down on the first chord, on these first two notes here, then you're gonna move the shape. And this chord here, these two notes here basically just serve as a way to slide up. So. You really want to get a continuity with this chord and the sliding up. So try working on that, getting these two, that note to slur, the two notes to slur together, right? So it's it creates a nice sliding sound. That might be a little bit tough, but that's kind of what really gives that particular part its flavor. So once you have that first part down, sorry, I goofed that up, that last part, but you get the idea. So you kind of, for the first segment of this riff, you do it like that, right? Where you begin, you slide up, and then you kind of kill the sound on kind of a sad, kind of, that kind of solitary note, and then you begin the riff again. But this time you slide up, take a slight dramatic pause, and then you do that very nice kind of Jimi Hendrix-y style fill. Now for that to really get the sound as it is on the record, you really want to get kind of that scrubbing sound where you scrape against the strings. That might take a little bit of practice to get down, but in the meantime, you can do it just with the hammer on and pull off. And then this is a good opportunity to introduce that terminology that I just dropped, hammer on and pull off. So a pull off is, just as the name would imply, you pull the note off the string, right? So in this case, it's using the G string here on the 12th fret. With your ring finger, you're gonna have the ring finger down on the 12th fret of the G, and you're gonna have your first finger already on the 10th fret of the G. And then from there, you're just gonna pull this ring finger off and get it, right? So you're hearing two different notes from that one pull off action. The first note that you pluck, and then the note that you pull off to. So to get this fill, work on getting that sound at first. and then you just repeat it. So. And that's the riff. Now, I was playing it up to speed. In order to get it down right, the first few times you're going to want to play it real slow so you get the notes nice and clean, right? It's always going to be more important to get the notes clean, to get it accurate, and then get it up to speed, right? So play it nice and slow as you need to, till you're able to get the notes nice and clean, right? So you could play it. I'll play it a slower version now. And so that's basically it. That's the intro riff. And as I said, that same riff serves as the verse. But just as a little teaser as to what we'll go on to for the next lesson, I'll go ahead and play the chorus of Scar Tissue. So that's what we have to look forward to, that nice little pretty sounding chorus. So if you have any questions, let me know. I'll have some tabs written out for the chords and so forth so that you can have a nice visual reference of what we went over here. And so, yeah, I hope this was helpful.